highly significant that you're here just a few days after we've celebrated Democracy Day here in Nigeria, and you're right smack in the middle of when we've just concluded primaries, the frontline candidates and the midst of picking their running mates, etc. I'm just a little curious, is your visit a coincidence?
It's not a coincidence, Maupe. It's great to be with you. We are here to join Nigerians in celebrating the start of a very exciting election season. And as you said, seeing the candidates get chosen, all of the changes that Nigeria has put in place for this election are very important, starting with the fact that the president is not standing, that he's supporting alternation of power, but also the fact that the electoral period is a little bit longer, which will give a chance to really have some substantive debate on the issues. And the other thing that we really picked up on this time was the excitement of young people about this election, that they really want to participate. We saw a line of young folks signing up to register, and that the social media is playing a role. So it's democracy in action in Africa's biggest democracy.
Indeed. And I'm just wondering if you have any expectations of the umpire. I know that the United States has been pretty supportive of Nigeria's democratic process and also very interested as well. Are there any other expectations you have of the umpire?
So again, we will do what we usually do. We will support INEC for its implementation of these elections. And we are very interested in some of the technological improvements that have been put in place and trying to ensure that those allow for free suffrage. I think one of the other things that came up is obviously, there are security challenges and people need to be able to get to the polls safely. So we'll also be supporting the ability of the police to deploy in a safe way. And we talked about that a little bit at the Villa today as well, how we can do all of that. But what we really want is for there to be good debate on the issues. Nigeria is on the cusp of even more great things, the green revolution, economic empowerment, all of these things. Some, attacking of corruption needs to be part of the platform. So we want to see a great debate. We want to see a clean and peaceful election, and we want to see lots of participation.
Indeed. And 2015, one of the worries that the country had then was the fact that the two major frontliners, one was from the north of the country, the other was from the south, and there had been fears then that Nigeria might not be able to survive the 2015 elections, at least in a very peaceful way. Remarkably, it did.
Yes.
And it was same as happening again in 2023, or the same is going to happen in 2023. Do you have any anxieties in that regard?
Well, again, as you said, candidates are being chosen. Their vice presidential candidates are being chosen. We're watching this attention to balance. We're watching this attention to being able to appeal to the needs of all Nigerians. That's really important. And also the way the candidates speak about national unity, about religious freedom, about security. These will be important as we go forward.
And of course, during the campaign period, I'm sure that we could learn quite a bit from the US experience in 2020. Disinformation and fake news was a big deal then. And it is a worrying concern for many democracies. What lessons would you say that Nigeria should be able to pick out from the US's experience in 2020?
Well, first of all, to be very, very vigilant about outside efforts to play in this election. This should be an election for Nigerians, of Nigerians, about Nigeria, and don't let any outside powers try to influence that or try to enter the debate. So you have to be very vigilant about that. I think the second lesson for us is you need a civilized debate, right? You don't want to tear each other apart. You want to talk about the real issues. So a less personalized campaign and a more issue-based campaign is important. And then, if there are spoilers, whether they're domestic spoilers or external spoilers, this is where investigative journalism comes in, what you do for a living, to really expose this so Nigerians know what's really going on.
When you mean external influence, do you want to expatiate a bit?
You know who I'm talking about. There are a number of countries that practice interference in elections. It's Russia, it's China, sometimes it's Iran, sometimes it's other countries. So be vigilant and ensure that you know where your news is coming from.
Interesting. Now let's talk about security. It continues to be an ongoing concern. The United States has been pretty supportive in that regard. Nonetheless, the influence of international terror groups seem to be growing. A case in point is the recent attack in a church in Owo in Ondo State, where 40 people were killed.
Yes.
And the federal government believes that it has the imprints of ISWAP. What are your concerns in that regard as Nigeria continues to battle terrorism?
Well, we grieve with that community. I had a chance to talk to the bishop today, but it is unfortunately a widespread phenomenon that terrorists, try to use religion as one of the tools of domination, and we're concerned about the spread of ISWA, the spread of other forms of terrorism, not just in Nigeria, but throughout the Sahel. So, we have intensified our security cooperation. We're very pleased to see the Super Tucanos are now here and working, that we are communicating well with regard to operations that are being run. And also we have some helicopters coming as well. But it's about more than just the military fight against terrorists. It's also about ensuring that there is good governance behind these operations, that communities feel safe with local police, that there is tolerance and openness for expression across communities. So it is a big issue. Nigerians are working hard, but we also need, I think we in the international community need to provide more support in a more holistic manner, not just in Nigeria, but across the Sahel.
Are you making those demands of the Nigerian government in terms of transparency, open governance, more good governance, more or less? Are there what would I say, parameters that or standards that you're holding the Nigerian government to?
Well, I think it's the Nigerian people who are going to hold the Nigerian candidates to good governance standards, This is a country, let's be honest, that still suffers from too much corruption. There's a lot of experience around the world about how you attack those problems, starting with the commitments that candidates make during the election. That's one piece. But then you also have to deliver services for people, and you have to ensure that you're coming with good education, good health care, good policing, etc. And I have every confidence that the Nigerian people are going to demand high standards from their candidates, and then we're going to have a robust debate here.
Indeed. And lastly, I'm going to make this a double-barreled one, because I don't think that we can have you here and not mention Ukraine.
Yes.
Given the amount of work that you've done behind the scenes before now on the Ukraine question, and also the fact that, there's also the question of policy on Africa in general. I know
Yes.
that when the current Secretary of State visited in November, he spoke about, an evolving policy, a resuscitation somewhat of policy between United States, Africa as a whole, and maybe more specific countries. So first I'm going to ask you if there is now a little more clarity on what that policy will be. Before it used to be trade, there was AGOA and a few others, but now it looks like there's a little uncertainty in that regard. And then secondly, I also like you to speak on how you think that the Ukraine-Russian war is going to come to an end. Those who are talking about Ukraine ceding territory, there has been no, Ukraine is definitely not looking in that direction yet. They are very staunchly against it. And even in the EU, they're not agreed on how they're going to approach that. So I do not know if the United States is thinking about how the war between Russia and Ukraine is going to come to an end.
That is two big questions,
Indeed.
So let me do what I can here. First of all, just with regard to U.S. policy towards Africa, we hope that Africans can see us more engaged, out traveling more, having meetings and engagements like this where we talk about the full range of challenges that we share, asking Africans to work with us on global challenges, whether it's health, whether it's climate, all of these things, and trying to listen more and be better partners, bringing more security support. I was in Somalia earlier on this trip. We have U.S. forces back in Somalia, as we talked about earlier, trying to bring more support here. So I think you'll see an evolving policy where we are talking about democracy, we're talking about prosperity, we're talking about green and clean governance, and we're also talking about security, because those are all the essential things that we have to do together, and about African leadership on global problems, which takes me to Ukraine and to Nigeria, which played and continues to play a very strong and important role in Africa and globally in calling out President Putin and his aggression against Ukraine, and the fact that he is egregiously violating UN Charter, sovereignty, territorial integrity of another country. This is not a Russia-Ukraine war, this is a Russian war against Ukraine. That's why the United States and our allies and partners across the world have been supporting Ukraine in its effort to defend itself, another $1 billion of weapons that we've just provided. Because imagine if this were Nigeria and a big neighbor with an army 4 times your size came and decided they wanted to bite off 2 more pieces of your country. Of course we'd come to your support. So it's about principles that undergird everything that democracies believe in: sovereignty, territorial integrity, right of self-determination. Big guy doesn't get to decide the rules just because he's a big guy. But also, Russia's war is having a profound effect, not only on Africa, but on all countries, in terms of driving up what were already high fuel prices, high food prices, etc. So we are also, as a global community, trying to address those things. We talked about it today. One of the main themes of this trip that we've been on, which was Djibouti, Somalia, Mozambique, and now Nigeria, has been how do we join together in food security, in getting fuel prices down, and Nigeria will play a big role in that. You're obviously a hydrocarbon producer, which we need democratic sources of hydrocarbons so that countries can make that transition and get off Russian fuel, but you're also a fertilizer supplier, so you can help feed the world at this difficult time. But make no mistake what this is about. This is about Putin's aggression against Ukraine, a massive country against its smaller neighbor, for no other reason than his own imperial ambition, affecting all of us. So this war will end, obviously, at the diplomatic table, but only if we can pressure Putin into coming to that table. President Zelensky has been ready for direct talks with Putin for more than 100 days, and it is Putin who is refusing. So we ask Nigeria and all civilized countries to put maximum pressure on Russia to come to the table and end this war. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madam Secretary. It's been a real time having this interview with you. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, and thanks for what you do.